Welcome to the show. It is Thursday, and that means Mailbag Day on the show. I feel like I'm sitting a little bit lower today. One of the many things that's.
You do look like you're at the kiddie table.
Do I look like it?
You look like you can barely see over the counter.
I know, like I'm looking at my screen, and there's like a foot up here, and Vince is pegging the top of it. Hang on, I correct this.
You were standing up last time I looked, and then I looked back, and you're sitting low. That's right. Better. That's much better. Much better. That was
all right.
He was like, "You're
closer to the top now." Yeah, that's what happens when you've got both audio and video rolling these shows. We're a week into training camp. It is Mailbag Day on the show. We've got a lot of questions that we're going to get to. Most of them regarding Notre Dame football. I say most because our old salty, spirited friend, Salty Virginia Peanuts, is in the house today. And he's got a lot of questions like this. We always appreciate it. It's been a while, I think, since we've seen Salty in a Mailbag show. But he says, is Ohio State's biggest question the offensive line? Yada, 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 long explanation. He's got like 8 of those for different teams. I'm going to tell you, we're a week into Notre Dame football training camp. You know the team I'm focusing on? Notre Dame. That's
right.
That's right. That's right. In the middle of August, I can't tell you what all these other teams' questions are, my friend, but we can talk a lot about Notre Dame, and that's the whole point of the old Mailbag show, right?
That's right.
Notre Dame football fan. You love Notre Dame football. How about this, Salty? Here's a little peace gesture for me. You weren't in here yesterday. Watch this. Watch this. Okay, there's Micah Gilbert. Who's up next to take a little fade from C.J. Carr in the back of the end zone? Oh, his jersey number's number 1. Who's that going up for it? Oh, and coming down in the end zone, it's Jaden Greathouse. That's right. Go ahead. The ripped Jaden Greathouse.
Exactly. I mean, what more could you ask for? And he wasn't. I was very disappointed he wasn't in the chat yesterday when you were showing that video. So to bring it back up is touche to you, my friend. Touche to you.
Like I said, yeah. Josh said he missed the highlights from yesterday.
We're throwing all kinds of praise Jaden Greathouse's way, and he just wasn't here to hear it. It's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate, but he is here now. So we've got a lot of questions in the chat. We've got a lot of questions that were submitted in advance. So let's get to a mix of them. I don't want to waste time just talking about, what Salty is or isn't doing. I've got to find – there it is. There it is. Domer Grizz. When James Rendell arrived in 2024, the media gushed over his 5-second hang times and booming leg. Obviously, we didn't really see that in games until 2025. Now, the new Australian punter, Jasper Scaife, seems to have an even bigger leg. How confident are you that he will play better in 2026 than Rendell did in 2024?
Okay. This has nothing to do with James Rendell. Let's be real clear on that. It was what he was being asked to do. And the difference between 24 and 25 is that in 25, he was just asked to punt. He wasn't asked to roll out. He wasn't asked to do some different things that he's not very good at. And so it's kind of on Marty Biagi and what he calls. If he just calls for Jasper Scaife to sit there and just boot the ball, then that's exactly what he's going to do, and it's going to be successful. If he asks him to do some different things that maybe he's not as good at, and look, I don't know how good Jasper Scaife is at rollout punts and, some different, I don't know. But James Rendell wasn't really good at that, regardless of where he called home. He just wasn't good at that rollout type of punt. Just wasn't.
Like two guys who happen to be from Australia. So let's not blame one for the sins of the,
correct
sins of the other, and we agree. I mean, we felt like Marty Biagi probably asked Rendell to do too much that first season, considering his lack of experience in those big environments and stuff like that. Now, one thing Marty Biagi was very consistent on when we got to talk to him both in the spring and last week at fall training camp after practice is the fact that, this is a guy who's played Australian rules football before. Jasper Scaife played in some big environments and done a lot of different things. So he doesn't think he's going to be fazed by that. Another big difference between Scaife and Rendell. Rendell didn't get here until the summer. Jasper Scaife
That is true.
Here in time to go through the spring. And since I knew this question was coming, here's a little Marty Biaggi talking about that potential benefit to Scaife being here in the spring.
It's huge, and kudos to our administration and especially academics. Mickey Kidder did an amazing job, just with the timeline of trying to get him in, and so it was super exciting that we were able to get everything through the government and everything, and so having a spring is, it's just like for any position, when you can get him in and get reps and get acclimated, and more so for that position, teach him the game, because we can't do that a ton in the summer, and so to get through a spring ball, I think really helped his growth to be able to be consistent.
I mean, I have to agree with everything Marty Biaggi is saying there. I think that's going to give Scaife, kind of a big head start. And,
Absolutely.
Look, I think that sort of like Rendell when he came, like mostly what we got to see of Rendell was just like snap, boom. There wasn't a whole lot going on. What we've got to see from Scaife with his multiple punts on the first day that we were out there, and in both cases, it was the first day of training camp. Yeah. He just it just looks a little bit more refined in terms of direction. He did do a little rugby rollout and that kind of stuff. I hope they don't put too much of that on him, but it just feels like they feel like Scaife is in a completely different place in terms of overall skill and ability, just ability and headspace as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's for everything that I'm hearing, it is a different scenario than when James Rendell was here and, all of those different things. And they have all kinds of, confidence in Jasper and what he's going to be able to do. And so, I mean, it feels different. But when you narrow it down to just, hey, first practice, kid was booming it. It's like, oh, deja vu. Let's see what happens when he actually gets on a football field. There's still a little bit of that. Like, I still have a little bit of PTSD, I guess, from, the 24 season. But again, I don't blame that on James Rendell. If he would have just been asked to catch the ball, kick the ball, I think he would have been just fine. I really do. They were trying to be a little bit too fancy with him. And then you add in the fact that you're going to Texas A&M and you're kind of in an, like, his first game was at Texas A&M. Like, look, that's an intimidating place to play, right? And he's never played college football before. Okay. So there was an adjustment period, right? Will we see the same adjustment period with Jasper Scaife? Will he be asked to do things he's not overly good at? I don't think so. I feel like Marty Biaggi has probably learned from his mistakes.
That's what I was going to say. Probably some lessons learned.
I completely agree with that. So I think it'll be more successful in his first year. And the other piece of it is he's got 4 years of eligibility. Like, he doesn't have the 2 that Rendell had. He's got 4. And if he's as good as he appears to be, he may not be here for 4 years. I don't know. We'll see.
So Irish for Life says a kicker, my kingdom for a kicker.
Oh, you got one, buddy.
And Ballpeen Jewel Shalali says, on the topic of special teams, seems like there's been a very directed effort to improve the kicking game the past couple of years in bringing in both transfer kickers and recruiting the best high school kickers in the nation. So I'm wondering, how did the kicking situation get so bad in the first place? It doesn't feel like we've had any, quote, bad special teams coordinator since Yoon had his run as kicker, yet we've had a steady decline in kicking since then. It can't just be bad luck, bad injury luck, right?
I would say, no, look, my memory is not as good as everybody else's as far as who the kicker was every single year since Justin Yoon took over. I will say that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when Marty Biaggi got here, it was a change in philosophy with how they wanted to staff the kicking position, I guess is the best way to put it. they were recruiting kids, but they were more focused on bringing in guys that had experience from the portal and, what that looks like. And then there was injuries too. Like you kind of have to put all your eggs in like one kicker's basket. You know what I mean? Because you don't, with the new roster rules and everything else, the first position group that got cut was the specialist room. Like that's just reality. Right. And so they were kind of like, oh, let's go get a transfer. He's already done it. We'll be good to go there. And then injuries happen and you're like, oh crap. Like that's not great. And so that was kind of the issue with Marty Biaggi and things like that. And it's just the injury bug hit them and their philosophy of going to the portal.
And I think it starts with the philosophy of going to the portal because, and I'm not saying it's about, like we talked about it kind of in the moment. I like the strategy, philosophy, whatever you want to call it, because you're doing away with the fact that you've got to spend time developing a high school kicker, and it's a little bit of a 50-50 proposition when they come in, exactly what you're going to get, because you do have some differences going from kicking in high school to kicking in college. And so you go out, you get experience from the transfer portal. You're bringing in mostly fifth-year guys, so they've been around the block a little bit. So you're getting a lot of experience in that. But at the same time, what happens is when you're bringing those guys in, high school kids don't want to commit when they don't feel like they've got a chance relatively early because you've shown a commitment to go to the portal. Now, remember, Groupie and Schrader have both been on NFL rosters. They're competing for a job with the Indianapolis Colts against each other.
Exactly.
One got injured last year, and then Schrader got injured, and it gave him the chance to bring up Groupie, who had been with the Saints. So, I mean, there's a couple guys who, both had some success. It's really the last couple of years that I think taints everything, just because of the injuries and just the fact that, you did have a guy who was supposed to be talented, but again, he's a freshman right out of high school, and it just didn't work. The bigger issue is there probably should have been a little bit better plan B in there, that rather than relying on the freshman. But again, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because of the fact you're going to the portal to begin with to get these guys every year, and high school guys don't want to come when that's going on.
They have gone to the portal for the last 4 seasons. 22, 23, 24, 25. They went to the portal to get someone. Before that, they had Jonathan Dorr that they brought in. Big leg, maybe not as consistent, but he had a big leg. He was everything that he was supposed to be, I think. And following Justin Yoon, who was obviously freshman through senior, it's a tough act to follow if you're Jonathan Dorr. But Jonathan he had a huge leg. He just wasn't always the most consistent. Yeah. And then they changed their strategy and they went the transfer portal. Transfer. And the last couple of years have been tough. And look, like Blake Groupie had a big leg. He was just tiny. You know what I mean? And Spencer Schrader did fine. And then Mitch Jeter was actually really good. He just got injured. He was really good before he got injured. They brought him back too early and he was inconsistent. And then when he was finally healthy, he had a bunch of big kicks in the playoffs, and then Noah Burnett was never a viable option, basically, is what ended up happening. So
he was damaged goods when he got here, and that
100%. He was injured when he got here,
and that's they couldn't have foreseen that. He basically I don't think was upfront with what was going on, and that played a big part in it.
Right. So I mean, there's some unlucky. There's some change in philosophy. There's some guys didn't pan out maybe as way you thought. So it's a combination of a lot of things, and unfortunately,
but the expanded roster now. The expanded roster does give them the opportunity to do both. And, now based on just what little we've seen of Schmidt in training camp, like the development needs to catch up a little bit because
he's a third string kicker. Right now.
It's been rough.
The ability to have a third string kicker is not that wasn't a thing before. You know what I mean? So that's nice that they're able to actually have that kind of depth. The freshman kid's got a big leg. He's just going to have to, learn the college game and all of that. And you got Spencer Porath for 2 years. Like, you're going to be happy as a Notre Dame fan having Spencer Porath as your kicker. So
absolutely,
they're in a good place here for at least the next 2 years. And I think the freshmen are actually going to be pretty decent. So I think they're going to be okay there as well.
Irish English says, convince me that the preseason buzz this year is different than the blind enthusiasm and pent-up energy Notre Dame fans have every year.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, Notre Dame has not been a top 5 team since 2006. So, there has been enthusiasm, of course, for Notre Dame, and they've been a top 10 team or top 20 or, whatever over the last 20 years. But this team is different. They're going to be a top 5 team in the preseason, when the AP poll finally comes out. I mean, I feel very strongly about that. And this is the most hype that Notre Dame has had, not just from the fan base, but from elsewhere. The national pundits, the magazines, all of these different things. This is the most confident people have been in a Notre Dame team since 2006. So it's not just us. It's not just the fans. It's everybody thinks Notre Dame is going to be pretty decent this year.
But it's also the best overall roster and
exactly
of talent that they've had, which includes best overall depth. There was so much depth at every position, like bar really none. There's just depth across the board. And you've also got the best quarterback that the program has had in at least 2 decades. I mean, who knows? He might even turn out to be the best that they've had and even longer than that, depending on how things play out this season. So I think it starts with that. It's just a more talented and deep overall roster that they've got right now, and the best quarterback in at least 2 decades that Notre Dame has on the field.
You put all those things together and, you've got a recipe for some success. And, obviously the schedule and the fact that there's a playoff, like all of these different things, they all kind of come together that you're allowed to be excited for this season, I would say, Sean. I think we're all excited about it.
Yes, you're absolutely allowed to be excited about this thing. It's exactly right. Speaking of the depth, Irish Chi-Town asks, if you remove the starters from the roster, how well would the Irish do this season against our current scheduled opponents?
So this is kind of a nuanced question to a degree, kind of the one that Jesse and I were having the other day, right? So starters, the first guys on the field, or are we talking about starting rotation? You know what I mean? Because if you take the top 3 receivers, for example, and you just strip them away, but you're allowed to have 4, 5, and 6, like receiver room is still pretty decent, I would say. Same thing with like defensive line, right? Are we just taking away 2 guys from that defensive tackle position? Are we just taking away, 2 guys from the end, like that kind of thing? Yeah. Are you telling me that you're taking away Drake Bowen and, whoever starts over at will, but you're going to leave me KVA and, so I would say this team would probably be 10-2 with the backups.
You'd go that high.
10-2. Well, I mean, again, the schedule has something to do with it.
My only question is the quarterback, because
that's fair.
You're taking away at most positions. I would be pretty confident. Again, going back to the depth that they have. Because look at the defensive tackles and the defensive ends. There's like a whole second unit that could have started for Notre Dame like 5 or 6 years ago.
Absolutely.
And they've got the depth to roll with that at both of those positions, plus the secondary. And, it's like an embarrassment of wealth there. And it used to be not quite as good, obviously. And so Irish Chi-Town had this one in here, and I think that this is fairly similar. He says, Carr, Hebert, and Grubbs all stubbed their toes at practice and are out for the season. Gerard starts the entire season. Our friends at FanDuel set the over-under at 9.5 wins. What are you taking?
I'm taking the under.
I'm taking the under as well. And again, like this goes back to, even though across the board you've got all this depth at all these other positions, at the most important position on the field for right now, you don't. You've got very raw talent, whoever the backup is going to end up being. Yeah. And I can't see Notre Dame winning 10 games with a freshman quarterback, against this schedule or not.
So I guess Gerard is the youngest of all of them, right? He reclassified. Like, the kid should be a senior in high school. I'm not saying he's going to be able to take this team to 10 wins. Like, I can't do that. I would feel more comfortable if it was Grubbs, for example. At least he's been on campus longer. He's been in the system a little bit longer. It's still, I would be like, could they get 10 with Noah Grubbs? It's possible. But with Girard, he's just way too young. Like, I know it's a difference of a semester, but it's also a difference of a year, like, in age. You know what I mean? He actually is a year older. You know what I mean? And so he had his senior year in high school. He also had a spring with Notre Dame. And so that gives him more of an experience situation than Teddy Girard. So I do think, like, I could put together a pretty good team if you're just taking the 22 guys off of the roster that step foot on the field first. I think I could put together a pretty decent roster for Notre Dame of twos, essentially. I feel pretty good about that.
Like, the quarterback would be my biggest hang-up.
Agreed.
I think that with a completely inexperienced quarterback, even with all those guys around him, you're probably going to stub your toe twice, up to and including BYU.
Sure.
And then, maybe things stabilize after that and you're winning the games that you're, quote unquote, supposed to, the unranked teams or whatever. But then you've still got Miami and SMU in November. And both of those teams are should be in the picture for a playoff berth. And we all know, Miami. So, like, that's the biggest thing. I think you would probably give at least one, if not two, up early on with a completely inexperienced quarterback, and then you would be okay for a while. But I would have concerns against like the upper echelon type teams, obviously, especially being Miami.
Yeah, I mean, there's three teams on the schedule that you got to talk about of being potential losses, right? I mean, that's where we're at. There's three schools that I would be like, I don't know. So can you get one of those three to get to 10? That's the question in this mythical scenario, right? I think the defense would still be pretty stinking good, which could definitely help.
Yeah. Now that's kind of the X factor there.
Yeah.
Because again, like, are we still in? We've combined these two questions. So are we still saying that the defense is playing with like, you're removing all the starters from the roster? Is that what you're talking about now?
The starting 11. So, like, you still get
right.
But you're
taking the starters away.
Taking the starters away. Yeah. No, taking the starters away.
Yeah.
But, like, I feel pretty good about Kingston and Madden Faramo being my linebackers, and, go down the line, even if it's Joey O'Brien and Luke Talich at safety. And, I think you could be pretty good.
My only concern in that instance, then, because we're taking the starters away from the defense, from both sides, but from the defense.
Yeah.
There's depth right now, but okay, so if all the twos become ones now, especially at the linebacker position and in the secondary, I'm a little concerned about what happens down the road. Like, if those guys, if the starters are completely removed from the roster, and now you've got twos as ones, threes as twos, everyone's bumping up on the depth chart.
Sure,
there's still depth, but the linebacker in the secondary specifically, you incur a couple of injuries over the course of the season. That's where I get a little bit about what your success becomes.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if we're assuming everyone stays healthy,
right?
Then I'm feeling really good about
on paper. If it's the twos the whole season without injuries and things like that, there's a lot of talent there, on defense and offense for that matter. But I feel pretty darn good about the defense still. But you're right. There's going to be an injury in there someplace, and then you're dipping into the quote-unquote threes, and then it's like, okay, maybe not, so I agree with that completely, but it's a fun thought experiment.
Right.
But yeah.
Cindy says, isn't Teddy older? I thought he was held back already. Is he already 19? I think
There's no way he's 19.
He's like 18 years and 8 months, basically.
Is he really that old? Okay.
Somewhere in school, so it's like part of the – so, yeah, from a physical standpoint, yeah, and like we've seen some of that on the practice field so far. But he's also still learning the offense, learning the system. It's not just the physical part, and it's also how you do against college guys. CJ Carr obviously had a redshirt season where he got to sit out and he got to practice, he got to absorb, he got to get in the film room and learn. Teddy Gerard doesn't have that right now. If he's thrust into action right away, he's basically 2 years behind because he's losing a full season of playing experience at the high school level as well.
Exactly. And, missing your senior year is like legit. Like that's a whole, everybody gives Tyler Buckner a hard time for missing his high school season because, he was injured and then COVID and, all of those kinds of things. Like missing your senior year means something. And then, like I said, Noah Grubbs at least had a semester in college, in spring ball, etc. So I would just feel better about him taking the reins than I would Teddy Gerard this year. Talk again next year when there's a quarterback competition.
Right.
But this year I feel better about that.
Tell you what, the mailbag is stacked up. So let's take our one and only break this hour. We've got a short show today as well. Because we've got Indianapolis Colts preseason football, and their pregame show starts a little bit less than an hour from now. Colts and Patriots coming up at 6:30 tonight. The pregame show kickoff is at 7:30 this evening here on Sports Radio.
Little Riley Leonard action.
I bet we see him. Keep our eyes peeled for him. All right, so a break, then more Notre Dame football mailbag coming up. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario, little Notre Dame football training camp talk today. We've got plenty of questions and answers from the mailbag. I saw someone in the chat was talking about the whole Gary Hammond thing. Have you seen some sort of announcement? I saw there was a tease yesterday, but I was looking during the break to see if I could find something. But
so supposedly the Bears came out and said that the Hammond site is their sole, like that's what they're looking at only.
Okay.
It says right here, Bears president Kevin Warren just announced their sole focus is on building a new state-of-the-art stadium in Hammond, Indiana. They would not change their name from Chicago to Indiana. Unless Illinois changes their demand soon, the Bears will be gone.
Oh, there it is. I just found it. Okay. So there you go. They honestly, it feels like sort of one final ultimatum for Illinois to me.
Yeah, I agree.
This is our focus. Illinois,
unless
you've got one little last chance. It's
Uh-huh.
like they're leaving the door open as long as possible, I think,
Right.
for Illinois to get something done.
See, and here's the quote from George McCaskey, who's the Bears chairman. He goes, "We will be the Chicago Bears, whether we'll be in Arlington or in Hammond." So
there you go.
Yeah, they're leaving the door open for sure.
Yeah. They're not the Inglewood Rams or the Inglewood Chargers or the New Jersey Giants or Jets, like there's a lot made about this, and I get it. They've been in downtown Chicago forever, right there by Lake Michigan, but
even your
friend,
even your Cowboys aren't in Dallas.
Yeah.
It's just
first they were in Irving, and now they're in Arlington. They're in Arlington down there.
Right. So
they've never actually been in Dallas. So
the outcry,
Cotton Bowl for a time, but that was it. Yeah.
The outcry about them not being in like downtown. It's like, okay, relax. Okay.
Stuff happens, man.
Yeah.
Chicago's had plenty of opportunities to get it
Absolutely.
done. End of the day. It's the long and the short of it, right?
Look, I love driving in, you're right next to downtown. Like, it's awesome. I get it. But like, it's not the end of the world if they go someplace else. There's so many teams that go elsewhere to have their stadium because there's more room. I mean, that's what it is. There's more room.
The Chiefs are fortunate that there's both a Kansas City, Kansas and Kansas City, Missouri. So it's still Kansas City, no matter which side of the state line they're on. They don't have to have this conversation. It's still Kansas City.
That's true.
And there's not, because I've talked about this before. In Chicago, there's this big deal about, is it actually Chicago? Is it the suburbs? And all this different stuff. Like when we were in Kansas, we just say we're going to Kansas City. You didn't say I'm going to Overland Park or Olathe or Mission or the suburbs of Kansas City. You just said I'm going to Kansas City. There just wasn't this whole big deal territorial thing about is it Chicago or is it not? It's just always seems so overblown to me, Vince.
Big time overblown, and I get it. Like when people live in the suburbs, like, no, I live in Chicago. It's like a badge of honor, and okay, I whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't. The Bears need an upgrade to their stadium. Period. They just do. They tried to upgrade it.
I think it's the lowest capacity stadium in the NFL. Right.
Sure it is. And the concourses are awful. They're narrow. They're terrible. Like, it needs an upgrade. They tried to do it within, the confines of Soldier Field.
Didn't work.
It didn't work, man. First of all, it looks ridiculous. And second of all, it doesn't work. So they need a new stadium. It just is what it is. I saw a rendering for them to put the stadium right next to the current Soldier Field. But Chicago's putting up every possible roadblock that there is. And so, rightfully so, the Bears are like, where else can we go then?
See, and now the other part of this, because Josh was just asking how long for construction, 2 years. Well, the lease that the Bears have with Soldier Field runs through 2033 as it is. So like they could start work on the stadium. Like if they reach the deal, they could start work on the stadium and it would be ready for the changeover. So there's no downtime or anything. But yeah, I mean, Like the one in Nashville, I think they've been working on that for 2 years or something like that, and I think it's I don't think it even opens this year. I think they might still be another year away.
They got another year to go. Wow, okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that, but I haven't heard near the kind of hoopla about Tennessee and its new stadium compared to like Buffalo last week when they moved into their new stadium with the bad uniforms.
It takes a while. I mean, it takes a while. Like it took 18 months to build the field house over by Penn High School. Like it's going to take a long time to build a stadium.
Well, Kansas has been doing, I think this is the third year, where like they built a new football stadium and they did it in incremental stages. Like the first season, it was, I think, wiped out. I think it was completely wiped out, and they were playing, like at Arrowhead and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Home games. And then last year they had about 3/4 of the stadium done. And on the visitor side, the east side, they kept like this massive, like the old grandstand, because they weren't going to have, time to get it all done at the same time. And now this year, the final installment, they got rid of that as soon as the season ended, and they're they finished that side of it. So Irish English, our man in Kansas, is correct. So I have followed that story correctly at the old alma mater. So, all right. So that's what's up with the Chicago Bears. Back to some Notre Dame football questions. Fish ND says, based on what you've seen and heard from camp so far, how do you project the boundary receiver depth chart to play out, both short-term, Wisconsin, and long-term, BYU-ish?
Oh boy. I mean, I'm not sure. Hold on. Let me double check here. First of all, I just want to throw this out there because I did just look it up. Nissan Stadium, the one with the Titans, is not going to be ready until the 27 season.
What I thought.
And then it will have been under construction for 3 full years.
Wow.
Because they started in February of 24. So,
man.
Yeah. Long time.
Yep.
So boundary quarter right now looks like, obviously Leonard Moore is your starter. I'm looking at the depth chart that we have in our magazine.
No.
What's
boundary
that?
Wide receiver, not corner.
Boundary wide receiver. I thought it was boundary corner. I was like, why are we asking about that? Boundary wide receiver is going to be interesting. I think Gilbert is probably going to get the first go at it. I really think Quincy Porter is a ways away from being able to play at a high level. Just based on what I saw him doing when we were there in person. I don't know if anything looked different, yesterday when you guys were there, but the other day when I was there, he had a noticeable limp. And so that's obviously not good.
I mean, a limp, and like I observed on, we talked about after we saw the full practice, like he just has no acceleration, no real explosiveness in his legs right now because he had a knee surgery, and it just doesn't look like his lower body is strong enough to give him that right now. So I don't know, because we haven't seen it, and as of right now, like he wasn't doing any of the individual stuff even yesterday at practice in the first periods that we were there. So I'm not
confident at all. I'm thinking like halfway through the season.
Yeah. Like to me, his development might be what can he give them in November?
Yeah. Completely agree.
Just based on what we're seeing right now. Because he just, like you said, I think he's a long way away. Like right now, I think it's not Jerome Bettis Jr. I think it's Micah Gilbert, Jerome Bettis Jr., and then Matt Jeffrey has worked his way in the mix. He looks like he's the number 3 there right now. So that's what it's looking like now. And again, the only other guy who I think would have any impact beyond those 3 is Quincy Porter. And like I just said, I don't think it's an October question. He feels like it's more a November thing to me, just based on what he looks like right now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And you don't want to rush him along either, because he's only a sophomore. So he's got a bunch of years left after this. And so you don't want to rush him back, re-injure him. You want to take your time And like I said, he doesn't look ready to go. So take your time bringing him back, get him back for when you need him. Look, Micah Gilbert has all the talent to do what he needs to do in the boundary. I firmly believe that. And I think Jerome Bettis Jr. has really physically put himself in position to get into that rotation at the boundary. So I think they'll be fine in the boundary to start. I don't have any worries necessarily. And, when Quincy Porter is 100% healthy and ready to go, let's roll. That sounds good.
Josh is asking about Fitzgerald. He's been more field than boundary.
And that's been basically Faison, and it's been Cam Williams has been out there. Fitzgerald's been out there. So, how deep they end up going on a game day remains to be seen. But, obviously Faison is your main guy out there.
Yes. And again, you can mix in Jaden Greathouse over there as well. Like if you want Greathouse, Mylan Graham, and whoever the boundary is on the field at the same time.
Yeah, and they've been doing some cross training and things like that, and at least that's what we're being told. We haven't seen it necessarily, but these guys can play multiple positions. We know that Jordan Faison can play in the slot if necessary. We know Jordan Greathouse can play in the field if necessary. We know he can play in the boundary if necessary too. So like there's options. It's just like Mike Denbrock said, who is going to force their way onto the field? That is the question.
Yep, that's exactly it. Yeah, so Josh says, so the field rotation has been Faison, Williams, Fitzgerald. It's mostly been Faison and Williams when we've been there in terms of two deep. The first time we really saw Fitzgerald in the two deep type situation was yesterday when they were doing tempo at the beginning of practice. And again, there were more guys elevated because there were veterans who weren't in those in the tempo stuff with CJ Carr out there. So yes. Call Me Rocket Ismail says, though there's not one proven standout as in past years, the tight end room with both Flanagan's, Premer, and Washington appears to be a more rounded group that is capable of contributing in the pass game. How confident are you Mike Denbrock will regularly use 12 personnel on passing downs and or with both tight ends as a pass option?
Well, I would hesitate to say regularly use 12 personnel on passing downs. Now, look, 12 personnel is going to be a staple formation, a staple personnel group in Mike Denbrock's offense. He flat out said that's his favorite personnel grouping. So there's going to be 12 personnel. And it's probably going to be Flanagan and Premer when it matters.
Ty Washington's been out there.
Yeah.
In some spot, like as of right now, he's the number 2
right.
tight.
Agreed. And that's what it'll be at the start. And I think Premer will work his way. I'm saying like by the end, I think it'll be Premer and Flanagan.
Yeah, they've used Washington more as like H-back / unattached type stuff.
Which makes perfect sense.
Like Flanagan is just going to be the guy who comes in and knocks the crap out of guys. Like I think that's going to be his primary role. I'm not saying he's never going to catch a pass, but I think that's going to be his primary function in this offense. He is just a big, nasty mauler, and that's I think what they really want / need him to do the most this season.
Right. Yep. The tight end room is actually pretty deep, I think. And so I think the tight end room is going to surprise some people in a good way. I really do. And we'll see how deep they go with the tight end room. See if we see any 13 personnel at times. I think they can get away with that for sure with what they've got. It's just going to be, I don't think you're going to see 12 personnel to the question regularly on passing downs.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a staple by any means. And, the other question is both tight ends as a pass option. I think the predominant 12 personnel that we'll end up seeing, this is over the course of the season. I'm not saying in the first game or the first month or whatever. I think the dominant 12 personnel we're going to see is going to include Ian Premer, and he will be lined up outside someplace as opposed to an inline tight end. Like that's my opinion. Because again, like with what's going on at the boundary, what are they going to get there? Can they substitute some of that production with a guy that has Ian Premer's skill set? I think that he can help pick up some of that production there in the passing game.
Yeah.
And I mean, we played that cut from Gino Gaduli yesterday. He talked about Fitzgerald and Premer as those young guys who are on the verge of being in that mix there. And you know, everyone's raved about Ian Premer so far. So
yep,
he's a guy I think we're going to see quite a bit.
Agreed.
Yep. Ian Premer, pride of Great Bend, Kansas.
You're going to ride that train for 4 years, aren't you? At least 3.
There's only 2 guys. There's only 2 Kansas guys on the roster. There's only a third that I can even think of, and that was Jafar Armstrong. I had to think of his name for a minute. He was from the Kansas City area. Bishop. Oh, and actually Grunhard as well. I forgot about Grunhard.
That's right, because Dad was coaching
Bishop guys.
And then,
DJ asks, setting quarterback aside, which position group depth chart are you most unsure of and therefore paying the most attention to?
Unsure of. That is an interesting way to put it. Let's see. Well, a process of elimination. I'm very sure about the depth chart on the defensive line across the board. I'm very sure about linebacker. There's a lack of experience in the DB room. And so I would put that in that category of one you're keeping an eye on. As far as, you know, if somebody goes down, who'd step in, you know, that kind of a deal. What is that? Is there going to be a rotation there to save those guys some wear and tear, you know, throughout the season, you know, that kind of a deal. So I think the defensive back room, more specifically the corners, I think that would qualify as a position group that I'm paying very, very close attention to. Because I just don't know enough about them from a competition standpoint.
Yeah, Irish I-10 remind me. I got Grunhard in there. We just mentioned him. That's right. So that's the fourth guy. Joe says wide receivers. You know, again, like, do we know exactly what the pecking order is going to be? No, but I think we feel pretty confident that Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse, Mylan Graham, probably Micah Gilbert, you know, again, to start the season, are going to be the top 4 guys. So we're pretty confident in that. And then if it goes to 6 or 7, then you've got Jerome Bettis Jr. Cam Williams for now is in the mix.
Jeffrey.
Matt Jeffrey.
Because they put him on the field before. Yeah. So there's trust there.
He feels like he's going to play.
Yeah.
How soon it happens and what
look,
it is.
Last year when he was on the field, they were running the football. Like, it was like, oh, look, 33's on the field. They're going to run like that. But they trusted him to be out there. So if they've already shown trust in him being out there, and then we've seen him make some diving plays and things like that in practice, like, I think Matt Jeffrey might be involved.
I think so as well. And then number 4, help me out. Freshman.
God, why is his name escaping me?
I know. We've talked about him enough.
Bubba Frazier.
Bubba Frazier, thank you. Bubba Frazier. Again, does he crack the top 6 or 7? I don't know, but with that skill set that he's got, it feels like we're going to see him.
And Elijah Burris could break in there at some point.
And he's just been injured himself right now, so that's that's a great unknown for
right.
Thank you very much.
We got it.
Yes.
We got it.
All right. Let me see. We got time for one more question this hour. I think we're just going to keep the mailbag going because we're stacked up with all kinds of questions we haven't got to yet. So let's see what we want to go to here. Indy Wine and Cheese. If Notre Dame wins it all in 2026, does Notre Dame have a real chance of getting 1 or even 2 titles in the next seasons between 2027 and 2030?
Do they have a chance? Of course they have a chance. Will they? God, give me the first one first. Like, that's That's where I'm at. I'm not counting 2 and 3 before I get 1. But look, I think 27 is going to be a very interesting year because you're going to have a lot of turnover on defense. You're going to have
be a little bit like last year, but you're not going to have Leonard Moore, you know.
Right. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of turnover on defense. That makes me a little bit nervous. Now, there's a bunch of talent. Obviously, we've talked about it. So that makes me nervous defensively. Offensively, it's going to hinge on who wins the quarterback position and what he looks like. Rewind the tape about 45 minutes. We were talking about, if the starters go down, it's the quarterback. Like what they will still have the same amount unless something happens. Obviously, they will have the same amount of experience a year from now as they do now, as far as being a starter and doing all of those things. And so that's a big question mark, right? And then you got Champ Mons coming in as a freshman. Do I think he's going to be ready as a freshman? I wouldn't count on it, but maybe in year 2, in 28. So you're giving me all the way to 2030. They'll have talent. It's just a matter of, is that talent going to come to fruition or not?
Yeah. And I mean, we could be having a conversation at the end of this season. Do they go to the portal to bring in another quarterback, or
right?
And are they?
Yeah.
These 2 young guns that they've got right now. I would think that, again, this is very limited. We don't get to see Teddy Gerard make a ton of decisions.
Right.
It's essentially you're getting to see highlight stuff. He's made some nice throws.
It's one-on-ones, I think.
Right. But we don't, we're not getting to see his decision-making but how confident are they in, he or Grubbs going into next year, So they managed to stay out of the portal for the 2 years with CJ Carr. Are they going to be able to do that? I'll just say this in terms of, one, whether or not they get a championship this year has nothing to do with do they win one, 1 or 2 between 2027 and 2030. The biggest factor now is multiple rounds of the playoffs. You've got to navigate 3-4 playoff games, and that's a big difference in what you used to have to do. And all you had to do is, well, not all you had to do. You just had to be in the top 4. You get in the playoff. So
sure.
Obviously you've got more margin for error now in the regular season, but at the same time, you've got to win multiple playoff games, 3 of them if you're playing in the first round, 2 of them if you've got a first round bye to get to the national championship game, just to get there. And so I just think they're going to have the rosters to be competitive, and they should be in the playoffs most of those years. But, again, winning multiple rounds once you get to the playoffs, that's going to be the biggest factor. Just ask Georgia. That hasn't gone very well for them so far in the first 2 years of the 12-team format. All right, last time out coming up. We've got Indianapolis Colts versus New England Patriots preseason football at 6:30, but we've got more mailbag right around the top of the order coming up next. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario. It's Notre Dame football mailbag day on the show. We've been answering a lot of listener questions predominantly about Notre Dame football on today's show. And we've got so many questions today. We're just going to roll it into the second hour since
why not?
This is a short hour. We've got Indianapolis Colts preseason football, Colts Patriots, 6:30 pregame tonight. So we've got roughly 20-ish minutes or something like that. So
I hope it's on TV because I realize I'm on the radio station telling people listen to the radio, watch it on TV. That's what I'll say. Yeah. I want to see Riley Leonard do his thing.
I would think he's going to be out there. I think he's got a good shot to be out there tonight since it is the preseason. Andre's got some questions in the old mailbag. What player or players do you want to take the biggest jump outside of quarterback to help Notre Dame win its 12th championship? I'll tell you mine right off the bat.
Yeah, all right.
Bryce Young is at the top of my list in terms of jumps. And hearing good things about him, talking to Charlie Partridge yesterday, and we'll probably hear some of those comments on tomorrow's show. I'm thinking about mixing it up a little bit. You know, we've got to talk to a lot of different assistants. I'm thinking about, do we want just, one coach focus like we've done? Do we bring in some comments from a few different guys and just talk about a lot of different things? So he seems to be very bullish on Bryce Young. I think we've all been bullish on Bryce Young since day one, but I think just getting more consistency out of him in that pass rush is going to go a long way. And just the inklings I feel are like it's going to happen. And I think as talented as Will Black is, I don't know if this is technically a jump since he hasn't played before, but
right,
he hasn't played before. So like he's got to play at a very high level at left tackle for that to happen.
I was thinking about going, offensive line because I think that's a great place to start. I will appease the masses and I will say Jaden Greathouse.
He was next in line for me.
Yeah, I know people. Wide receiver room. So, but I mean, they're not wrong.
A couple guys in the wide receiver room are going to have to make a jump.
Yeah, they will. I mean, look,
and a tight end for that matter.
Obviously, you've got CJ Carr, who's going to be elevating his game. I feel very confident in that. And he will bring along some wide receivers with him. But still need a little bit more from that room, not just what he can bring them along to be. The chicken and the egg whole, thing. But I need some eggs to step up.
Absolutely. And I'm trying to think of if there's anyone else. Like, I think those are the big ones for me. A couple receivers are going to, because I think Jaden Greathouse still counts in that.
Absolutely.
Yep. Over under 5.5 players that'll record 20 plus catches this season. Interesting number. Well, maybe not interesting, but exactly 5 guys had 20 plus catches for Notre Dame last season. The only one that's back, I believe, is Jordan Faison at the top of the list.
Faison, Greathouse.
Agree. Aeneas Williams.
100%. Do we think a tight end gets there?
Yes, I think Premer will get there.
Okay. So that's 4.
Are we going to say a third receiver will get there?
I think Mylan Graham.
Yeah, I would think Mylan Graham will. So that's
I feel good about it. Yeah.
Is there a 6th guy who gets there? I kind of have a hard time seeing it.
I do too, because I don't think you got Gilbert's probably going to start the year. Does he stay there the whole year? If Quincy Porter gets healthy and comes back, I don't know. And so if you're telling me that they're going to split the year, essentially, do I think they get to 20? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just to, like Irish for Life is saying, can you take Williams? Again,
we did.
So the list again that we had, most likely, starting with Jordan Faison, Jaden Greathouse, Aeneas Williams would be my third, Ian Premer, Mylan Graham. That's 5 guys right there. I think they are the
sixth?
5 most likely guys. I don't see a 6th guy.
Yeah, not yet.
Not right now.
Talk to me after game 2 maybe, and we'll see how the offense is shaping up and kind of who's going where, that kind of thing. But 20's a decent amount,
Yeah, like Chi-Town says Flanagan. I think, especially if Premer's playing, I think he's going to be the tight end. He kind of assumes the last year's Eli Raridan role in terms of the tight end who's catching the passes. Because if you look past Eli Raridan, the other tight ends, I think, combined for like 3 or 4 receptions, all like the whole tight end group after Raridan last year. And so I think Premer is going to be the top receiving target. And if there's 12 person, I just don't see Flanagan that much or anyone else that much in the mix in terms of the tight ends. I see the second tight end best case in the 12 to 15 range in terms of receptions this year. Emergency?
No, it's the boss. Like,
not realizing that we've got a show. I mean, it's been known to happen before.
And I okay, to his defense, Thursday is not my normal day. Usually it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But here we are. So it's all good. It's all good.
Most of the summer Thursday has been
has been Thursdays, yes. It's okay.
Salty Virginia Peanuts asks, is Notre Dame's biggest question whether CJ Carr can conduct this orchestra? The Irish have good to elite strength at all the offensive skill positions, but they do not have the price. Did he mean to say the price or love? The price of love? Basically,
he likes to play that. So price of love, I think, is where he was going.
They don't have price or love.
Right.
Basically.
The biggest
question, can Carr conduct the orchestra?
No, the question is not CJ Carr. That is not the biggest question for me. I feel very confident in what CJ Carr will do.
You mean the biggest question isn't, can CJ Carr be a competent quarterback without having Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price to hand the ball to? Hang on now, Vince. You're going to tell me something now. Spin it for me, brother.
My biggest question is not CJ Carr.
Compilation of like every talking head dude in the country.
100%. And your question is not shallow, Salty. It is the shallowness of every talking head out there. Well, I don't know what they're going to be able to do without Price and Love. I just don't know.
No good quarterbacks ever lost 2 good running backs before. It's never happened in the history of college football. I don't know if you knew that, Vince.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. So Carr is not my biggest question on offense. I will say that. I would say the biggest question on offense for me, I guess, is the wide receiver room. For lack of other question marks, it's, will there be some guys to step up and take the reins? Like, that's the biggest question.
I honestly feel like Salty is saying, what is the biggest question? I don't think it's position group specific or scheme specific. I just think it's mentally, can this team navigate a 12-game regular season as the front runner in every game that they're going to play this year? Can they play as the front runner and not have to be backed into a corner like they've been the last 2 years to ultimately succeed? Sure. Can they play that role? Can they wear that hat? Can they, maybe it sounds cliche. Can they be the team with the target on its back all year? Because that's what they're going to be. Ever since they decided to not play in the Pop-Tarts, before that, they were left out of the playoffs, decided not to play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. They have been the national punching bag all year long. There are a ton of expectations on them. Everyone thinks that the schedule is so easy that they should waltz their way into the college football playoffs. Many people consider CJ Carr, if not one of the Heisman Trophy frontrunners. Can they navigate all that with all those expectations? And, at the same time, sort of not let it go to their heads. Can they win games all year long that they're supposed to and get themselves into the playoffs? Like, I think that is the biggest question.
Like, I dig it. Look, one of the biggest things to pay attention to, obviously, and I have faith in Marcus Freeman, obviously. We've talked about that, but, can he coach this team from a position of the hunted as opposed to the hunter? Because he has, look, it's a lot easier to coach when it's like, hey, man, it's us against the world, our backs against the wall, it's win or go home, all of these different things. That those pregame speeches write themselves. What about when you're 4-0, 5-0, 6-0? Does the speech get tired after a while? Does the message get stale? I'm interested to see how that goes. I do have confidence that he'll be able to manage it, but he hasn't had to yet. So what does that look like?
Yes, and yes. Andre says, if you can create a Notre Dame bobblehead player, who would it be?
Justin Yoon. No.
Justin Yoon?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. A bobblehead doll. This is a great question for Jesse because he's obsessed with bobblehead dolls.
He is.
I mean, he really is. I have one.
I'm surprised that he hasn't got his maybe he hasn't got it yet. I don't know, but he got that.
Oh, yeah.
What was your guy? The guy that the Cubs...
Ballesteros.
Ballesteros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was obsessed with Ballesteros.
He had to get him the Ballesteros bobblehead.
Yeah, I own 2 bobbleheads. I own a Hank Aaron that somebody gave me, random. And then the one you gave me, the Rudy one.
Oh, that's right.
It's in my office.
I'm surprised you don't have more than Hank Aaron. Really?
It was a random. Somebody gave me a random Hank Aaron one. I was like, oh, I like baseball. He's the home run king. I'll put that out.
I've got my first bobblehead was a Harry Carey. I've got a Harry Carey.
Okay.
Bobblehead. I've got a Lou Holtz bobblehead.
Nice.
And on my vacation just last month, I got a John Axford bobblehead.
You found it at the antique store?
Yeah, at the antique store in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, baby.
Nice. Because he played for the Brewers, so it makes sense.
He did. Almost got a Craig Counsell, but he was in a Brewers uniform. So
you just got to paint it. You got to get in there and give him some pinstripes.
Yeah. I guess the question is who on this roster would it be? I mean, honestly, if Jaden Greathouse goes with the hair out, which he does quite a bit, that'd make a very compelling looking bobblehead. I think that would be a good looking bobblehead.
It's a good one. For Jesse, I'll go Drake Bowen. I wouldn't mind a Drake Bowen bobblehead.
He'd look good on a bobblehead.
Yeah.
Oh, salty. Daryl LaMonica. Yeah, we're going back in the day.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're in the Wayback Machine on that one.
Tommy says, scale of 1 to 10, how much do you hate it when you've got your last bite of food all piled up on your fork just right, just for it to fall off as you bring it to your mouth?
Oh, man, I feel like that hits close to home for Tommy. I feel like that must have happened to him recently.
It must have. Yeah.
I mean,
don't know if that specifically has happened, but there have been plenty of times where I'm like, I'm trying to bring, like fork to mouth, and it's like, why won't the food stay on the fork?
Oh, 100%.
To me right now.
100%. It's awful. It's awful. This is a 12. Like, this is off the chart. I mean, I have a good relationship with food, and I want it in my mouth. And so when that does not occur, I get very frustrated on the inside, sometimes on the outside.
CNEP asks, is this the most depth you guys have seen on a Notre Dame roster?
Yes. Short answer. Yes, it is the most depth. It's why we're as confident as we are. I mean, it's because if, knock on wood, right? If there are injuries, we feel pretty good about who would be able to step in, as long as there is the normal amount of injuries for a football season. And the top end talent, the starters are all very, very good. They're top end for a reason. So yeah, we feel very good about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. The best roster that they've, especially from a depth standpoint, than they probably had in 30 plus years. Chi-Town asks, should Division I college football have 1 or 2 preseason games where they play D2 teams and then limit teams to an 11-game schedule where they can only schedule other D1 teams?
Listen, D2 versus D1, like if you're talking about just because of two teams I follow, Notre Dame and Hillsdale, if they squared off.
There wouldn't be any benefit to Notre Dame in that.
It wouldn't be any benefit to Hillsdale either.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they would die. Now, the major difference between those levels are the lines. I mean, that's the major difference. Now, there's skill kids that can keep up and things like that. It's the line, man, and you wouldn't be able to get anything accomplished on either side because of the line of scrimmage, and so that would not benefit. Now, would I like to see like some combined practices? Maybe not a full-fledged preseason game, but like some combined practices, kind of like the NFL does. Absolutely. I think that would be very beneficial.
I think that would make a lot of sense. Because now you finished week 1, you're going into week 2, say next week, you're getting ready to finish up week 2. You have 1 or 2 days of joint practices with another Division I teams. And there are obviously plenty of Division I teams in this area that you could do something like that with if you're Notre Dame. I think that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
They're never going to reduce the schedule because everyone's relying on it for money now.
Too much money. Yeah, too much money. But I would do a combined practice, maybe open it to the public. Like I'd be okay with that. At least very much like open it to the media. I think you could get something out of that. And again, you keep it regional, make it make sense.
And I think if you're doing combined practices rather than like a full-blown scrimmage or exhibition game, like you're probably going to, because like at the NFL, when they have the combined practices, there's always a fight or two breaking out. But like, I think you're going to minimize cheap shots and stuff like that, like in terms of if you're actually playing a full-fledged exhibition game of some of some kind, just limit it to, some kind of controlled, drills and scrimmage, like
a few one-on-ones,
that kind of stuff. Yeah. Where it's like Illinois' defensive backs against Notre Dame's receivers and vice versa.
That you could do some 7-on-7,
D-line. Yeah.
Yeah. High schools do it all the time. They travel to another high school and they have a combined practice and they do 1-on-1s and they do, 7-on-7s. They do some 11-on-11. I think you could get a lot out of that, to be honest with you. And it's not like you're going to be emptying the playbook or anything like that. It's just an opportunity to hit somebody in a different colored helmet. Like that's the biggest thing. And I think there is an advantage to that, that they could do. So I do
too. I do too. I just realized we ran out of time, Vince D'Addario.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well,
that is it for us tonight. We are wrapping it up. All Mailbag show tonight. Again, we've got Indianapolis Colts preseason football coming up tonight. Pregame at 6:30 against the New England Patriots. So we've got that. I think there are 6 preseason games on tap tonight. So check your local listings. NFL Network's got Packers Steelers, I believe, tonight. We've got Colts and Patriots right here. Jesse will be in tomorrow with both Vince and I, and we will mix it up on a Friday at the end of another week of Notre Dame training camp. We'll talk to you then. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.